and make sure
I
that
get self-conscious about sweating.
one person finishes their thought.
Sorry. That's okay. Singular. If I wasn't judging you.
I can hear you whispering.
That's kind of the point. She's
It's like you're underneath the microphone.
Consider it a microphonoscope. From the bed, turn a spark to a fire. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila.
I'm Lila, and this is the 2-year anniversary of Horizontal. I'm at Hacienda Studio in Bushwick, Brooklyn.
I'm Kristi Ann.
I'm Morel.
I'm Steve.
I'm Jillian.
And I'm Owen.
I'm Tiana.
I'm Orion.
I'm Venus.
I'm Jason.
I'm Patrick. And we're Horizontal with Lila.
This is slow radio. It's an intimate affair. We're lying down, wearing robes, sharing secrets in your ears. This is the 100th episode of Horizontal. Naturally, this one's a bit different than the others. In celebration, I am releasing a never-before-heard experimental episode recorded on May 21st, 2019, the 2-year anniversary of Horizontal. In every other episode, I lie down with 1 or 2 people at a time. In this special, I lie down with 9. I gathered as many previous Horizontal guests, patrons, and supporters as I could, and asked my boyfriend at the time to join us. We recorded at Hacienda Studio, the event space of Hacienda Villa, my intentional community. We had 3 beds and 3 microphones. None of us were sure how it would go. What would come up when the 9 of us tried to have one conversation? In this episode, I lie down with Kristi Ann, spectacular dancer and movement artist, and my friend who, behind the scenes, has quietly helped me choose the titles for my episodes. Morel, Horizontal's very first guest, resident of the villa, my housemate and friend, and, as you may recall, a consummate connoisseur of delight. Steve Dean, my friend the Super Connector, dating coach, dating industry consultant, and guest on episodes 82, 200 Dating Profiles, and 83, You Do Not Have Voting Rights in This Startup Relationship. Jillian Richardson, creator of The Joy List, author of Unlonely Planet, and my most recent horizontal guest on episodes 98, Withhelds and Unsaids, and 99, Indiana Jones is My Father. This 100th episode interrupts my 4-episode arc with Jillian and Dennis, but they'll be back next week and the week after that, with episodes 101 and 102. Those episodes are available exclusively to patrons of the Horizontal Arts. So for more Jillian and Dennis, plus access to the full Horizontal, which includes all the part 2s, and in this case 3s and 4s, going back to the beginning, become my patron on patreon.com/horizontalwithlila. patreon.com/horizontalwithlila. You'll get all the independent, uncensored, sex-positive horizontality, and you'll be a part of the mission that I share with Jillian, to make the world a less lonely, more intimate place. Also in this episode, we lie down with Owen Muir, MD, my friend, a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, half of the team behind Brooklyn Minds, and the audiophile who made the first season of Horizontal possible by somehow mixing and mastering every episode in the midst of fathering, psychiatristing, and running a business that is changing the world of mental health. Tiana and Orion, my dear friends, poly partners, leaders in the POC kink community in New York City, and my guests on their own 4-episode arc, episode 78, Surprise, surprise, he liked black chicks. 79, not gonna be the abusive guy. 80, definition of a primary partner. And 81, sneak attack group sex. These are some of the episodes I am the proudest to have made, and I'm ever grateful for their bravery and generosity. Venus and Jason, who have been patrons of the podcast and delightful avid participants in nearly every horizontal event I've produced, including the podcast launch pajama party, 14 Rooms, my immersive Valentine's experience, The Art of Trust, my Connection Games workshop, and Horizontal Storytelling, a live recording of the Quickies. And lastly, Patrick, engineer, fixer of things, fearless explorer of self, my ex-boyfriend. In this episode, we do a round of If You Really Knew Me, which is probably my favorite of all the intimacy games I lead. And then a round of brags. We discuss the experiences that Jillian and I had with the man that we both dated. Disassociation, novelty drive, feelings as puppies, healthy narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, emotions at 110%, opt-ins and opt-outs, normative dating behavior, and needing other minds to support us in not losing ours. Then we conclude with a round of gratitudes. This episode is unlike any other, not just because I get horizontal with 9 people, but because with Owen present, we have the benefit of a psychiatrist's insight. Happy 100 episodes to me. If you have any other ideas for how I might celebrate, reach out through the Horizontal with Lila Instagram or on horizontalwithlila.com. And now come lie down with all of us in Bushwick, Brooklyn.
So I thought we'd start with a round of If You Really Knew Me. And the way that goes is a fill in the blank. If you really knew me, you would know blank. And you can go as light or as deep as you like, but you know this is horizontal, and I like to go deep. So I'm Lila, and if you really knew me, you would know that in 7th grade, I was on the cheerleading squad, and all the popular girls were on the cheerleading squad, but I was not popular. And one day we went to a competition at Six Flags or some other theme park. I think it was Six Flags. And everybody ditched me. And I had, I think, $40 that my mother had given me. And I went and spent it all on games, and I lost them all. And I called her up crying. And she said, it's okay. And she was so sad for me that they all ditched me. And then I had to regroup with them at the end of the day and take the bus home with them.
Oh, no.
It was terrible.
Laughing at your pain. I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm Kristi Ann, and if you really knew me, you would know that on my first date with the person who I thought I was going to marry, I tripped up the stairs and accidentally peed my pants. But he didn't notice, so I actually ran around the block, because this was in Manhattan, and borrowed a pair of pants from an old client of mine and got back in time so that I could pick him up in my car that I owned at the time and still go on our date.
Hi, I'm Owen, and if you really knew me, you'd know I have an eidetic memory, and so I kind of remember everything. It's like an excruciating degree of interpersonal detail, so it's kind of like the memory that people have for traumatic events, but for everything. And I spend a lot of time and energy, like, not remembering things, but they're all accessible, and sometimes that really sucks. Like, a lot.
I'm Jillian, and if you really knew me, you would know that I really struggle between feeling really powerful and independent and asking for help and feeling taken care of.
I'm Steve, and if you really knew me, you'd know that I almost so compulsively try to help other people that I oftentimes have to come up with elaborate relationship designs that prevent me from just being so me that I'll do things like wake up at 2 a.m. to go meet a completely random stranger to help them with things.
I'm Morel, and if you really knew me, you'd know that I have had this story since childhood that my voice is unimportant and uninteresting to listen to, and spent the majority of my childhood burying my face in books silently, and then later into computer screens playing games. And it was easier to type out words than it was to speak them. Still learning whether or not my voice is actually interesting for other people to hear.
You must have a pretty good text game.
I'm Tiana, and if you really knew me, you would know that I struggled with figuring out what I truly need and want for myself to be a successful, thriving human being until my 30th birthday, when Lila asked me, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" And that opened up the doors to what do I want to do with every aspect of my life.
Hi, I'm Orion. And if you really knew me, I have come from a background that, pretty violent background, and I have a fair amount of PTSD, and I think on the surface I come across as a really level-headed, chill sort of person, but I am constantly finding ways to be very physically active or meditate to just manage my temper.
Hi, I'm Venus, and if you really knew me, you'd know that when I was 9 months pregnant, my mother almost died in front of me, and she coded twice, and it's been 7 years, and she's fine, and I don't think I've ever processed that fully.
Fuck.
Hi, I'm Jason, and if you really knew me, you'd know how much gratitude I feel for every hour of every day, for pretty much every facet of my life.
It's beautiful. I'm Patrick. And if you really knew me, you would know that from the majority of my life, I felt disconnected from people, an outcast. And am now learning to come into my voice, step into my power, and learning a model of owning it, owning my presence in a way that doesn't rely on diminishing others, that I can help others lift them up too.
And I want to do one more round of things. And what I want to do is inspired by Morel, who was inspired by Mama Gina. And it is a round of brags. Because of the social sanctions against bragging, many of us privish and limit our sharing of what we're proud of. And as I'm rewiring my nervous system for joy and pride and celebration, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this recording and why I had this party and why I've done the confetti project photo shoots and why every time I get a new patron, I do a happy dance. I also want to regularly be sharing accomplishments and to be hearing about the accomplishments of others, especially people that I love. So I brag that I am in my first beautiful, conscious, non-monogamous partnership. And for the first time, my partner was with another lover, and I felt great about it.
I fucking knew it.
Who said that?
That was Owen. I was just waiting for that.
You've been waiting a couple
I have
years.
been waiting so fucking long for you to, like, you're like compersion central. You're not. It was like your jealousy just is so foreign to who you actually are. I'm so happy to hear that.
It's not true, but I just never thought that.
You have to feel secure and safe first.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And feeling that, and the excellent communication and the agreement upon the kind of communication that we're going to have beforehand allowed me to feel really great. I had one little twinge. I was like, "Arr." And then I was like, no, I actually feel great about this. This feels great. I did not want to provide that. I was exhausted. I wanted to sleep. That's what I wanted most in the world. And then he got to have what he wanted most in the world. This is great. And it came on the tails of a revelation about my jealousy, which is that it has been the source of and tied up with my erotic imagination since I was 15 years old. Wow. And for the first time, I was able to look at my jealousy and not feel shame. To look at my jealousy and be like, wow, thanks for all that arousal.
That's hot.
Shall we go the other way? Oh, partner, my partner.
You know, it's funny because I was also going to reflect that what I'm most grateful for at this exact moment in my life is this partnership that I'm finding myself in. It feels really, really good and healthy and mutually beneficial. The kind of communication that I'm feeling invited to be part of, invited to play a role in. It's the most broadband communication, especially deep emotional communication, that I've ever felt. And it's the kind of openness and safety that is helping me learn what it is that brings me arousal, what it is that brings me, it's helping me understand my needs emotionally and sexually to really open up, not just in romantic relationship, but professionally and with friends, and open up as a human, in the early stages of adulthood in my life. I feel so grateful to get to experience this and to wake up next to you every day. It's the best. Just really, really cool.
Is that your brag?
Yeah, I was going to poke him about it too, but I let him go.
It's kind of a fair brag.
It is a brag. I'll call
So
it.
Is it your brag?
It starts with
It sounds like a gratitude.
Okay. All right. So my brag is...
I brag.
I brag. Damn, okay. All right, fair point.
Yes. I mean, I'd brag if I was dating Lila, but...
I mean, fuck yeah. I brag that I'm dating Lila.
No.
That's an epic brag for me.
Yes.
I'm Jason, and I brag that I've been married for 13 years and she gives the best blowjobs ever.
Hey.
I'm Venus. I'm married to Jason, and I brag that I just had what I think was a pretty successful sex conversation with my 7-year-old. Because she asked all the right questions. And one question snowballed into another, and before we knew it, we were at the gates, and I explained it, and I told her that I trust her with this information because I think that she's mature. And she thanked me. She gave a thanks, and she said, "Thank you, Mommy," and she gave me a hug in gratitude. And I hope I did well.
Yay.
Oh my God, thank you, Venus, for mothering your child that way.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Orion. So many things I can brag about. Most currently, very similar to Patrick. I am super excited about my relationship with Tiana all the time. And I have a little anecdote. I can brag that I have run a 50-mile race, in my life.
It's a lot of miles.
Oh, I'm Tiana, and I would like to brag that I wear glitter or something shiny every single day of my life.
Yes! Is there more to that brag?
No, just I'm a shiny. I'm a shiny ass bitch. That's how I am.
You are a shiny ass bitch. Oh my God, I love you.
I love you too.
Over here in the cheap seats.
Okay. Hi, I'm Owen, and my brag is kind of a big one. I do a job that most people don't really have any access to, like, assess, because I'm a psychiatrist, and most of what I do all day long is really private, like, protected by law private. So, like, nobody really has any idea how good anyone is at that thing, by and large. But with the team of people, especially my wife, who helped me learn how to be good at this, I built in 2 years a $25 million business based around taking great care of people who are really sick. And that model, when seen by other people who, like, actually understand business things, was so compelling that they're going to help me take it national. And going to the wall and, like, calling the attorney general every goddamn week to get care coverage for people, and, like, actually taking insurance companies to task on the daily turns out to be the way to, like, build a really, really, really good business, by taking care of people who actually need it and who have otherwise no access to it. And I had the moment where I just realized this was, like, a real thing, is I had a trans sex worker in my office crying because never in her experience of medical care ever before had she felt understood. And, like, the fact that I am being given the opportunity to do that at scale is just totally mind-blowing. And it couldn't happen without the other people on the team, many of whom come from this community. And it's fucking weird and magical, but I'm gonna take care of a lot of people, and the world is gonna be better when I'm dead than before I was here.
Fuck yeah. Well bragged.
I'm Jillian, and I also need to echo, well bragged. That is, oh my God. That brag rocked me to my core.
Oh, Jillian, I meant to tell you, I didn't mean it about the cheap seats.
I like our section over here. Cheap
I
seats are
became
not.
concerned with Jillian's well-being for a moment, and I had to...
I feel cared for. So I'm Jillian. I have 2 brags. One is that 98% of people who say that they're going to write a book never finish it.
Fact.
And I am finishing my book, which I am so proud of because I have cried so many times finishing this book and thought so many times that no one cares about my voice and what I have to say doesn't matter and who am I to say these things and all that stuff. And I'm still doing the scary thing and putting out a book and being interviewed and going on podcasts and doing public speaking because I care about making the world a less lonely place. And if I have to be uncomfortable to do it, and so be it. That's my brag number one.
How's that book you've been working on, Brian? Is that just really,
My other brag is that I have a very difficult relationship with my parents and my family, and our dynamic is very unhealthy. And I asked my parents if they would go on an intensive family therapy retreat with me. And I thought that they would stop talking to me because I suggested that. And they actually said yes. So this Thursday, I'm going on a 5-day family therapy retreat with my parents willingly. And that is something I am really scared about, but proud of myself for asking for what I want.
Wow.
You got this, girl.
Yes.
Wow. I'm Steve, and I'm really inspired by Jillian's comments about progress with parents. My brag was originally going to be about how I connect people, and I have really fun I'm doing a double brag. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had so many fun moments of deep connection where, I found a partner for the CTO of OkCupid. I found someone a plot of land to build a tiny house in 45 seconds. I found someone to officiate. I found a fife-toting like centaur goat man to officiate a wedding within a minute and a half. So like connecting is really fun, and I think on that frame, like on that topic, my second brag is like I still have multiple chat threads ongoing with my parents, with my sister, with my aunts and uncles. I just keep connecting my whole family together through these overlapping chat threads. So many different permutations, and it's keeping us really close. So now we have like vacation planning threads. We have threads about like personal insecurities or anxieties that we have. We have therapy threads where it's like, how do we, get our uncle to go see someone? He's definitely in crisis mode. We need help. I feel like it's been really, really healthy to keep the whole family together, even though we're all in different states. And we've used technology to do that.
Awesome.
Wow. I want to know how you do that.
Write a book.
I was just going to say.
I'm Morel, and I brag that in 2.5 years' time, I transformed myself from having one partner who was bringing me a lot of sadness and making me feel really, like causing me to feel a lot of loneliness, to a person who is saturated with partners all around her. One husband and a boyfriend we share, and another 2 partners, one male, one female. Very, very happy and thriving in love in my little polycule, and feeling so incredibly saturated with love every day that I feel like I could just do anything I put my mind to, and I've got people who love me, and they've got me.
Morel, would you also brag about tomorrow? Because it's a beautiful counterpoint to your If You Really Knew Me.
Okay.
Got it.
Fuck. Okay. I brag that a friend asked me to give a talk at a women's film festival whose website looks like it's a really big deal. And it's a sold-out event. And my mind said, no, you don't need to do that. There's a lot of other people who could do this. There's no reason why you would want to do this. And my body said, yeah. Yes. So I'm doing it tomorrow. Going to talk about female empowerment. Yes.
Which in and of itself is female empowerment. Doing the talking.
Just doing it.
Exactly. Yes.
So you can just stand up there and drop the mic, is what I'm hearing.
Just standing Well, it's like a double brag. Like, just by getting up there to say the thing, she's empowered.
Yes.
And then anything she says is kind of probably empowering.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your turn, Kristi Ann. You had the whole time.
I know. Okay. Well, I'm Kristi Ann, and I guess I will brag that where are we? In the last 10 months, I've become an excellent boundary setter. Thanks.
Teach us.
And it translated into my work life more than I thought it was going to. And that was really exciting. I've set some boundaries and said some things and made some really clear choices and was probably way more bold and outspoken in that sense than I have ever been or been comfortable doing. So that's been really cool.
Well bragged.
Yes.
So well bragged.
Well bragged, everyone. Bye, Morel. Morel has to go to sleep.
No. At least not yet.
Speaking of boundaries.
That was my wife calling about getting someone to design a slide deck.
you.
The slide template. I'm like, oh, is that cheap?
Okay, can we settle?
Yep.
During the break, Tiana told me that she wished she had come up with a better brag. And so she's got one now.
Yes.
Do it.
I'm Tiana, and my brag is since I first went to the Get Down about 2.5 years ago, I have been radically self-expressing my style and how I like to dress and every aspect of, my physical appearance. I take great conscious detail to make sure that I'm fully satisfied with how I look and how I want the world to perceive me.
Yes.
The word fully stood out.
Fully. Jillian, you started to tell us about an experiment.
Yes.
Tell us.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, I was feeling just kind of shitty. Like I had some interest in a few different men in my life, and they did not reciprocate the interest. And I was just in this kind of headspace of men only want to be my friend. Men are not sexually attracted to me. And I had a friend of mine give me a challenge, and he said, all right, how about every day for a week, when you go into the world, you try and get a man's phone number. And I accepted the challenge because I love a good challenge and I love someone being accountable to me.
Someone to be accountable to?
Or someone to be accountable to for a challenge. And I was expecting that I was going to be asking men for their phone numbers, which is not a thing that I do very often. And what was really shocking about that week was that just because I was going into the world every day with the energy of, I am getting a man's phone number today, every man I interacted with, I was thinking to myself, could I get this person's phone number? Do I want this person's phone number? Do I want to ask him for his phone number? And I never had to ask a man for his phone number because people kept giving me their phone number. It got to the point where I started kind of freaking out a little bit. I had my Uber drivers asking me out to dinner. And I don't even think I was consciously doing anything.
Get it.
And it was just... was like, I must have just like lingered in the car
5 stars.
for like 2 seconds longer.
Excellent service.
Excellent service. And it was just
Most
so
direct
fascinating.
route.
Late night hero.
I was like, wow. It really just reminded me that anytime I think like, I'm not attractive or people aren't interested in me, that more likely than not, people are responding to the energy that I'm giving out. And if I'm in that energy within myself of I'm attractive, I'm interested in seeing other people, I'm interested and available and curious. I think the biggest thing was that I was curious about other people, and every interaction I had, I wasn't taking it for granted. I was really present in it because I had to do this unusual thing for myself every day. Mm. And then I ended the week with just like a bunch of phone numbers.
It's really fascinating to me because we've talked about this before, but I have had and reinforced the opposite story. That men were really happy to fuck me, but nobody wanted to be my boyfriend. And can I share this, Jillian?
Yeah.
So we briefly both dated the same man. He's the reason actually why we know each other, because he introduced me to the Joy List. And I was gaga for this man. And it was right around when I met Tiana. I was just like, I met him for the first time. I invited him to a circling thing at the Chandelier.
I was there.
And Tiana was there. And we paired up for our first exercise. And I looked in his eyes and I thought I could fall in love with this man. Wow. And we spent just that week, and we saw each other, I think, 5 times in that week. And I was like, yes, I will monogamize this man. I am into it. We didn't, so there was a sexual encounter that we had that was our first P&V. And it was at his place. It was my first time I was at his place. Our time was limited, and it didn't go very well. The cat was around and watching, and he had to like move the cat out of the room. It was kind of like creepy, and I wanted to restrain him, so I did. That was really fun. That was the really fun part of it. And he learned that he likes the clinking of chains, which he didn't know. Learned something about himself. Then we had our safer sex talk kind of quickly, and just a not fruitful sexual encounter where he was super distracted about the time and the cat, and then he had to go. And I had to leave his apartment. And after that, I didn't hear much from him for a couple of days. And I spun out and just went down the rabbit hole. Then I talked to him on the phone, and he said, yeah, I don't feel it. I don't have romantic feelings for you. And I talked to him for 2 hours to really, I was like, are you sure? I asked him multiple times, are you sure? Because it felt so not true to me. And the only thing that I could come up, and I was so devastated that I kind of ruined Tiana's birthday party. I was so sad, and just said, I probably shouldn't come to your party tonight. And she was like, no, please come. I'll take Lila any way I can get her. And so I went, but I probably really shouldn't have gone, because I got there and just burst into tears, and then to the hotel room. And then there were like 4 people hugging me, and I'm having this awareness, like, really, I should not be crying at Tiana's birthday party, and everybody should not be hugging me. This is Tiana's day, and this is terrible. And I couldn't help myself. I was just so devastated. And then I wound up sleeping on the couch that night in the hotel room. And the next day, I was watching and rewatching Guy Winch's TED Talk, How to Fix a Broken Heart. And one of the things that stood out so powerfully for me in that was, you have to have a reason. And often people don't give you a reason, or they don't give you a reason that is satisfactory to you. And it may not be satisfactory to you for different reasons. It may not be true. They might be hedging, you know, or it may be true and you just can't bring yourself to believe it. And so I don't know which one of these things it is, but I have to make up a reason for myself that I can accept, because if I don't have a reason that I can accept, then it's going to be much harder to heal this broken heart. And so the only reason that I could come up with that made all the things make sense was that I was simply too much for him. Not for anybody, but for him. Too loud, too outspoken, too shiny, too much for him. That actually helped me to heal my broken heart. He had gotten me into the Joy List, and so I was reading Jillian's newsletter for months and months and months. And then I went to one of our Vice potlucks, which is Villa, Utopia, Chandelier, and Ellery. We get together, our intentional communities get together once a month and potluck at one of the communities, and it's rotating. And Jillian was there. And she was very shiny, and she was dating somebody. Can I say that?
Yes.
She was dating somebody in one of the houses at the time. And we finally got to be face to face. I was like, I know your work. You know? And was that when I told you about Horizontal?
Yes.
So I told her about it. And then maybe a month or two later, because we became friends and I started inviting her to things, and I invited her to one of the Naked Ladies clothing swaps, she came to it. And I don't know how this man came up, but I said that I briefly dated him and he broke my heart. And she said, me too.
Wow.
We shared our heartbreaks.
Will you tell your parts?
Yeah, I had a very similar, our experiences were eerily similar in that I think we both had it was very intense. I'm very sure about your affection for me. Like, bringing treats, bringing notes. We were apart for a week, and he wrote me a long letter on a plane because he was thinking of me and like couldn't message me. And it felt very romantic. And I even had the thought of, oh, wow, this might be the first time where this person likes me more than I like them. Like, I don't even know how to handle this. And we were on a date, and we like went to this talk, and then we were hanging out with one of his friends, and then we got a drink, and then we were going for a walk by the water. And in my mind, it was just this beautiful date. And he turned to me and he told me, you know, I'm not attracted to you. And I had the same experience as Lila did of, are you sure? Are you sure? Because every sign points to you are. This is very confusing. And it was also a very short amount of time that we were seeing each other. But it was so intense and so, to me, felt so certain that it kind of felt like this rug was pulled from under me. And when I look back, I think it was really a gift because it showed me really how intensely it is that I do want those feelings given to me in an authentic way, like of deep care and gift giving and notes and just like him bragging about me to his friends and just all these things that felt so good in the moment. My story about it is that it was very performative. And it was someone playing the role of boyfriend before they actually felt the real feelings.
Do you guys want to know the real thing?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, real thing as in this is a story I have heard before many, many times. And it is a person acting true to form. And I hope this is helpful in understanding your experience. What you're describing is the experience of someone dating someone with narcissistic personality disorder. And that's a condition which is like really shit on a lot, and I think rather unfairly, because I think you can see at the end of it, this is a person who is left bereft of either one of you, And for the people in this room, it sounds like kind of as a given that that's a bad thing. But the kind of engulfing experience, and you got kind of all the things, and you got all this like proof of his love and affection. Like he went above and beyond and showed it to you. And so you didn't have to imagine. You had proof after proof after proof. And that's actually because his ability to hold your mind in mind is rather restricted and doesn't keep his own internal experience in mind. So he's able to create an image of you that allows him to appeal to the things that you want and need. And he does that really exquisitely. But the problem is he's unable to have a symbolic representation of his own internal experience. And while he's busy kind of pulling out all the stops, he's not able to have a narrative about his own internal experience that allows it to feel genuine. And so he's actually rather kind of confused and empty at the end. That again, he's tried to do all the things that a lover would do, and yet he is not in love. And it has to do with the impairment he has in holding on to his own mind, mentalizing himself, while he's doing this extremely good version of mentalizing you, holding your mind in mind, and giving you the things that let you feel loved. But that kind of so much, he did such a good job, how could he not understand this is so crazy, is because it was just not in the way that you have like a structure to understand, because it's very uncommon, relatively speaking. People with this personality structure are really, I mean, the person to feel sad for here is not either one of you. You guys are going to be fine. He's going to be really alone because he does this over and over and over again, likely, and finds himself not in love with people who were so ready to be loved, which is really actually rather sad in the end. And it's why I work with individuals like this on a regular basis.
My reaction to hearing Jillian tell me that story was relief. It was, oh, he does this.
Me too.
So it's not just me, and it's probably not just her either.
No.
What I found fascinatingly painful was that he played upon our stories of where we thought we were lacking, or what we thought people didn't want to give us, or how they didn't want to see us. So to me, he was like, I don't love you and I don't think I ever will. And to Jillian, he's like, I'm not attracted to you and I don't think I ever will be.
Right. So he figured out for you, it was love that you could never get. And for her, it was attraction that she could never get. And so he rejected you in just the right way to hurt you enough to go away and never have him be challenged again by you.
This is blowing my brain open. This is blowing my brain open.
And the sad thing is, there individuals like this are, I mean, clearly this is an individual causing chaos in the world for you and for probably other people and for himself. And they're often not able to engage in psychotherapeutic care. They have a dropout rate of 60%.
Wow.
And there aren't really good models yet that have been proven to help, which ironically would help a lot of other people too, because they stop causing all this chaos. But and this is probably, you were imagining your own hurt because he did such a good job of hurting you, but that did a really good job of keeping him isolated and alone and not at risk of looking at himself and seeing the devastation he hath wrought and feeling the hurt that might allow him to change.
Owen, can you distinguish narcissism from codependency for me?
They play very well together.
Because both seem to be characterized by an inability to check in with what you actually want yourself.
Well, all of us have a degree of narcissism, and all of us can be prey to codependency. But yeah, it's about mentalizing, thinking about the mind of how much you need the other and not how much you need to hold on to you, or how into account your mind is taken, as opposed to your minds together are understanding each other's misunderstandings. And if all you're doing is kind of proving it back and forth to each other, that's like playing tennis, not like giving someone a hug.
I still feel confusion.
Well, it's very confusing. But
is there something...
Codependency is a state individuals get in together where they kind of are clutching onto each other instead of holding onto each other. And that involves a degree of mind blindness. So it's all about me or all about you, but never about us.
Mm.
And so misunderstandings don't get understood. They get perpetuated, and you get, angry, and then you make up, and then you get angry, and then you make up, but you don't actually understand how you could have gotten so angry in the first place, if that makes sense.
This is really blowing my mind because, I thought I had an amazing understanding of narcissism because my father is, one of the most extreme narcissists I've ever met, if not the most extreme narcissist I've ever met. So I've done so much reading on narcissism, and I never would have thought of this person as a narcissist. But I guess it's because it's in a romantic context. And hearing you explain it, it totally makes sense. And of course I would be attracted to a person who reminds me of my dad. Isn't that classic? Isn't that classic?
Can I ask a question? How is this different than... Because for me, when you told me that you and Jillian had this similar experience with this person, and I didn't get Jillian's full story. Jillian, she didn't tell me your story. She just said, hey, guess what? Fun fact. And it kind of ended very similarly. And I was like, well, maybe he's just a new relationship energy kind of person. He just loves that, burst of oh, you're new and fun and shiny and everything's novel and we're getting to explore. And then once you've kind of seen, what he felt, he's seen enough. He was like, okay, thank you. Now, who's that new shiny thing I want to explore and get into that new relationship again?
So what distinguishes a narcissist from somebody with simply a high novelty drive?
Yes.
Well, there's a D at the end of narcissistic personality disorder, which distinguishes people with healthy narcissism from people who have a problem. And a new relationship energy is normative. That's a thing you can and should feel. It's, do you need to create devastation in the lives of people at the end of that week when you felt so excited just to be able to get out of it in a way that lets you feel free and clear? That's problematic, right? Whereas if you can say wow, there was so much energy and it's kind of died down and I don't know if I feel the same way and maybe we could work it out and maybe we can't. Let's see. That's healthy. Because it's acknowledging what you feel and it's opening your mind to the other person so they can see, oh, it's a change in the newness wore off. Okay, so what do we do now? As opposed to, now I'm going to stick a dagger in your heart so that I don't have to come face to face with the fact that I can't hold on to my feelings for longer than a week.
I'm hearing this story of this lover in your past and identifying with it quite closely because it is specifically within a romantic context that I've come to terms with my own narcissism. And I'm realizing that I've done similar things to my previous partners. I feel incredibly fortunate that my previous partner, most recently, she is someone who is very willing and able to show up and do the work as well. And together we were able to kind of grapple with this and rumble to figure out where the root cause was. On my side of it, I think the codependency was a common thread that we both shared to a significant degree. On my side, I can only really speak for myself because I've done the most work on myself. The narcissistic behaviors that I exhibited came from a result of not being able to cope with my internal emotional experience. From a young enough age that I dissociated quite completely. and was living a life through images. Now, if I had told myself a year ago, hey, Patrick of 1 year prior, you're living a life through images, you might want to look into that. I would look at my future self. First of all, how am I looking at my future self? How are you talking to me right now? But second of all, what the fuck are you talking about? This is normal. So it's almost like trying to tell a fish who doesn't, it's like two fish, or a wise fish swims by two younger fish. Hey, how's the water? Two younger fish look at each other like, what the hell's water? I couldn't have seen it. And I understand that. And so I have the utmost empathy for younger me and others who are also grappling with this but don't know it, because that's the deviousness of it for me, is I could not have known. I covered my tracks so expertly that it was about the other person being crazy, or the other person not being attractive enough, or not being new enough, or shiny enough, or X enough. And that was my sort of ejection seat, the easy out, that I didn't have to confront what was actually going on, which was that things were coming up in relationship with this other human that were bringing me pain and discomfort, that were really the catalyst for growth, but I wasn't ready. And so I continued hiding until time and fortune brought me to the point, and some really powerful people in my life helped me come to the point that I didn't have to hide anymore. And I was able to see it as a catalyst for growth.
I'm wondering, did that growth come with having words for your experience?
Did that growth come?
So you mentioned before images, living your life in images, which are non-linguistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if the transition was you began to have language to represent your experience.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by you only understood in images?
So the image of a person versus my emotional experience of a person, because I was cut off effectively, and physiologically as much as psychologically, cut off from my own emotional experience. Emotions being sensations in the body, whether in the solar plexus or in the neck or in the shoulder blades, or in a muscle twitch here or there, or a feeling of nausea. I didn't have, certainly not linguistically, any way to identify these feelings. That's not something that was part of my lexicon growing up. And because that paired with not really having a solid role model as an infant, as a young child, in terms of like how to handle these emotions, that they are normal, they are okay, they are part of the human experience. Here's what this emotion feels like. Here's what it might feel like in your chest or in your neck. Here's how to handle it when it comes up. Here's something you can do when you feel this. Here's some words that you could say, or here's what you could call it. I didn't have that.
So to check a theory, did the response to negative feelings when you're young, did that come with kind of positive regard from your parents no matter what?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was certainly a component.
Yeah. Then it's a non-contingent response, right? It didn't have anything to do with what you're feeling.
Correct.
So you were a sad child and you got a smile and a cheer.
Correct.
Right. And so you were left literally without the words to describe any of those experiences.
Correct.
And then when you got them, here you are. Good work.
Yeah.
When you say, I'm still stuck on this image idea. When you say image, do you mean somebody as you imagine them to be, the story that you tell yourself about somebody? Or do you mean actual mental images instead of having words?
I mean the cognitive fabrication of this person. So yes, to what you're saying, the story I tell myself of this person, the story I tell myself of me. Rather
than what you're actually feeling in your body somatically.
My somatic awareness was very limited up until the last 4 months.
Wow.
Patrick, I can totally feel you on that one. I think I've described it in the past as I remember everything in the third person. And so it's as though I'm just seeing the play-acted version of what happened. And I'm in that version, but I'm seeing it from like 5 or 10 feet away. And I'm curious if there's any relationship there.
So I actually am developing a model for treatment of NPD.
Oh yeah, because like individual treatment does not work. My dad's like
correct.
everything is wrong with everyone else except for me.
Yes, but when you get them in a room together, they can actually be honest with each other about how hard it is to be Superman.
Yeah,
and to have kryptonite around.
Like family therapy will be super helpful. Because otherwise he'll never go to therapy. He's like, I don't need it. Your mom needs it.
But
you
he
need
could,
it,
but he
I
could
don't.
go all day long and it wouldn't matter because he would talk about probably either the grandiose representation of himself that he was having or utter devastation.
That's what the therapist who's leading this weekend was saying. He was like, just so you know, one of two things is probably going to happen. He's going to have his walls up the whole time, or you're going to see your parents at narcissism.
But I will warn you, the heritability of NPD is 0.71.
Yeah, really good.
And so, and I don't think it's bad. Like, if it wasn't for narcissism, ADHD, and mania, nothing cool would happen ever.
True story.
It's
true fucking story.
It is inherently grandiose to think you can do anything different than it happens, right? To think you can do anything different than is the things that are happening is crazy. Why would you think such a thing? And it takes a certain degree of suspension of disbelief about your own normalness to be able to go out in the world and say, I'm going to change this in some dramatic big way. I'm going to invent the iPhone, which, by the way, is the way it is because Steve Jobs had a button phobia.
No way.
Yeah. He actually, there's literally a fear of buttons, and I forget the name of it, but my psychology director treats this. It's phobia buttons. So the turtleneck.
We should not be laughing.
I'm sorry, it's probably terrible.
Wait, were the turtlenecks because
that would be awful? They're everywhere.
But look at all the technology we use. None of it has a button on it.
Because Steve Jobs is afraid of buttons?
Because he was literally afraid of buttons. So he was keeping... No, it's not.
I hope it's so true.
He was keeping the world free of the thing he was afraid of.
Whoa.
And he was also crazy enough to think that that could be great for all of us.
Owen, I love that thread.
I love that so much.
Because I just want to echo that back. He kept the world free of the thing he was most afraid of. I find it no small coincidence that we live in a time where we've never been so effective at abstracting away human connection for day-to-day life and tasks. And speaking only for myself, human connection used to terrify the shit out of me because I didn't know how the fuck to do it. And I have so much compassion for older me, but also all of the other fellow technologists who see these things as problems that need to be solved. See let's just get it done with machines because that's a problem that we can solve. I know how to, I'm a hammer, everything is a nail. I don't know how to engage with a screw, so I'm just going to use a hammer to hit it into the board, but then I destroy any possibility of forming a strong union. And this is a great mechanical analogy, but also in terms of connecting with humans. I think that reflection is so poignant.
The really fascinating thing about it is the way that my team works is we use technology to facilitate having our minds together because you can't handle difficult things alone in life. You need human connection to do it, and you need other minds to support you in not losing yours. And when we deal with people's suffering every day, trying to do that alone, this is why I think individual therapy is kind of bonkers on average, is because it's terrifying to be suffering. It's terrifying to hold on to someone's suffering, and having to do that all by yourself makes you both lose your mind unless you have someone to hold on to it with you. So like right now on my phone, which is making so much trouble, one of my therapists is working with a young man who wants to die, and it's other teammates who are helping him hold on to his mind so he can communicate with this person in a way that will be effective and will not be paralyzed by his own terror that the person that he cares so much about could die.
When you say hold on to your mind, what do you mean?
I mean, when someone says something that is the equivalent of a tiger coming to eat you, right? the natural response is to
fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah. You don't want to wonder, like, I wonder how hungry the tiger is. Is he like, am I lunch or am we going to
Did he just have a snack?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not adaptive to think of the tiger in that way. And yet there's so many things in our world, like having to deal with that moment when the person says you're not attractive to me, which takes your mind and just crushes its ability to think. As you said, Lala, you had to make up a story.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the actual story had nothing to do with you. There's nothing wrong with you whatsoever. It probably had to do with him. It sounds like you couldn't see that.
It may have had something to do with him and me.
Yeah. But your ability to kind of hold on to you just kind of spun for an option that made it tolerable.
Yes, I did.
As opposed to going, look, I'm not going to know. Which is very close to the truth.
Right. Holding the not knowing was not working for me.
Yeah, and that's why other people are helpful. Because they can help you hold on to not knowing in a way you can't do on your own, which is why it works to have other humans around. In a way, being by yourself or just dyadically doesn't work as well.
Steve, I want to go back to this idea because I keep thinking about you 10 feet away from yourself, watching your memory. And it sounds like the way I've heard people describe having an out-of-body experience.
Yes.
What does it feel like?
I don't know that it feels like anything. I was going to bring that up. I think that the way that I experience the world, it's as though I'm perpetually in that space outside of my body where things will happen where I think there's an expectation that I'm feeling something and there's no physiological response at first because my brain is waiting for me to tag it. It's waiting for me to decide what to feel.
Is this why you're so helpful?
It could be. I think it makes it hard to, like, I basically
Kristi Ann
I'm always trying to decide which of the competing realities I want to choose to live in. And so if, like, as a partner, for instance, could say something like, you're not attractive to me, I instantly, it's almost as I, like, leave my body and then enjoy swimming around this space where there's an interpretation of the reality as, oh, that means that I'm insufficient and that this could be really devastating to our future together. There's another reality where it's, oh, this is really cool information. I can't believe we have a connection that allows my partner to feel safe enough to share this with me. There's another reality in which I'm already planning ahead for, oh, well, there are these following, like, 5 things that I was already kind of frustrated about with this partner. So them saying this frees me up to now begin searching for a partner that's more compatible. And so all of these realities are kind of playing out at the same time, leading my body to have absolutely no idea what emotion it's supposed to be choosing. And so I don't actually emote. I go a little bit deadpan. And one of the things that I had kind of set before, like years and years ago, as my default response is the most positive one I can identify from the lineup. And I think that led me to be very compersive. You know, it makes me always choose the thing where my partner's like, oh, I cheat on you. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. That means our previous relationship agreement was insufficient. And now that now we get to learn more about one another in order to better understand, like, how we can get to know each other better and what will have to change in order for us to actually have a functional relationship.
Whoa. That was a lot of words, by the way.
Mm-hmm. In the first episode that Steve and I recorded, which is now lost to the annals of history because I didn't press the record button. Fuck.
This is Steve.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. In the first episode that we recorded together, which does not exist, you told me about the process that you put yourself through in order to distance yourself that far from what you feel when you feel it in real time. And you told me that you did it because there was a time in which you were completely submerged by your feelings.
I don't know that I was submerged. I'm trying to think, because there was...
You talked to me about a sadness that engulfed you and made you unable to function for days on end.
I think what had happened was that I entered a point in my childhood when I didn't have any friends. This was around, like, I went to a new school. I didn't really bring any of my middle school friends through. I was alone in high school. And because of just having no friends and no social skills, and I had not really had any effort or experience making eye contact with people, so I didn't know how to even attract friends or human connection at all, I retreated into myself and would spend hours and hours each day just laying on my floor and kind of just trying to decide what kind of person I wanted to become, because I didn't know who I actually was. And I kind of designed a personality based on, observing all the people around me that I thought seemed to be adding the most value to the world and were showing signs of genuine happiness and contentment, and showing, like, through their social networks that other people were directly benefiting and enjoying time spent with them. And I just kind of took all of my favorite characteristics from those people and began to try to build in little habits of action and of thought even into my life. So one of those habits was what taught me how to distance myself from my real-time emotions. It was the habit of trying to always choose the reality that creates the most, positive impact. So I kept distancing myself from the emotions in those moments. If I knew that something was happening with some regularity, so like getting stuck in traffic, there's a negative version of reality where I always respond with stress and frustration, but there's also a version I can create in which I code that as, time for self-care, and I can have a little meditation that I go through. And so traffic then is suddenly encoded as delightful and a perfect opportunity for taking a break, to be at peace. And I just kept reinterpreting everything, but that interpretive layer, I kind of got stuck in it. And I kept distancing myself from my body more and more.
Do you resent having emotions?
I think I just undervalue them. I look at them as signaling mechanisms. And the minute you own the signal and understand what it's trying to do, then you don't need the emotion anymore. And so I try to just collect the emotion long enough to store it and package it away and understand how I want to tag it. And once it's filed away, then I almost forgot to have the experience of it because I was too busy deciding what it should be.
Kristi Ann?
It's just so funny to hear him speak about that because it's so far from the reality that I'm living in, So it's just...
How so?
I mean, I'm living with a person that lives emotions. There's no scale, there's no spectrum, right? So his emotion is his reality, and it's at 110%. So there's no way he could interpret it or tag it or potentially find another way to even understand it. It comes on as its own personality and its own life. So it's just so fascinating to hear someone literally on the other end of the spectrum talk about their experience with it.
And they are actually what you're describing are the literal other ends of the cognitive and affective poles, right?
Correct.
So the feelings for your partner become external reality. There isn't a barrier between his feelings and what is his world. And for you, there's the constructed, bridge between your experience and how you're going to conceptualize it that is unmoored from the bedrock of feeling. It's like a bridge built on clouds.
Steve, did you desire to feel more in your body?
It depends. I think part of the challenge is that I had added a normative layer to the reality I created. And that layer was me telling myself that feelings, and I've said this publicly, these feelings are like puppies. I've literally relegated to the realm of lesser beasts or things that are,
Initiate feeling subroutine.
Well, no, it's no, they're really cool to have around. They can keep you good company, but if you don't train them well, then they're just going to bite the mailman and shit on the rug and ruin it for everybody. I like my feelings to be extraordinarily well trained so that, I recognize sadness when it's there, but I don't need to constantly exist in it. I think I was trying to build my own intentional protections against things like depression, things like
Have you experienced
emotion.
grief before?
Have you ever grieved for someone?
Yeah.
What was that like?
I think the last time I remember grieving strongly for someone was my grandmother when I was 14.
Mm.
But I kind of it was around 14, 15 that I kind of started recoding my brain. And so...
You were going to say that I built my personality.
It felt like that because the next time someone died in my life, I was almost joyous.
You weren't going to do that again.
Well, I thought about like what was it that was good and bad about the experience of grieving. And I found that I didn't really like the part where others kept crying because for me, like I packaged the experience so quickly into a like, okay, grief for me is the experience of remembering all of the different moments you shared with this person, deciding for yourself what role they want to have in your future moving forward, to what extent you want to remember them or memorialize them, and then encoding into habits in your life all of the best characteristics of that person that you want to keep on in the world. And for me, like, grief became a system. And as soon as someone would die, I'd be like, all right, I just need like this, maybe like 3-4 hours, and I'll be good. I just need to turn on the grief engine. And like, I even wrote an article about how to do that, which makes me, I'm very self-conscious about that now. Cause you know, like Patrick said, you don't realize where if that's your reality, you can't necessarily understand the extent to which that can be considered completely off board, you know, out of left field for a lot of other people, especially ones in this case who dwell in their emotions.
I keep thinking about those good vibes only t-shirts.
Oh, fuck those people.
And I like kind of laugh cry inside a little bit when I think about you and that t-shirt. And there's a part of me that goes, well, why do you want him to feel all this, feel everything and feel all his emotions when he's engineered such a neat little robotic life for himself where he can be positive?
It's not robotic.
I'll take it back. A life for yourself where you can be quite positive pretty much all the time.
Well, if you surround yourself with positive people, which becomes exceptionally easy to do, but it shallows each relationship because you don't actually create space in your relationships to hold space for people who are in a negative place. So I literally
you do.
Well, I remember myself saying on a pretty regular basis, don't come to me if you need empathy. That's not the thing that I'm here for. That's not the thing I'm optimized for. You know, find the friends that you need who will be able to give you 5 hours of time. Because in my case, you know, as a super connector, I was dividing my time across thousands of people. So if one person suddenly needed, like if they're grieving, some people you might need 6 hours straight with them, just being present, holding space for that, because it can be an exceptional amount of feelings, an overwhelming amount. And for me, I'm like, all right, well, I can really max out around 6 minutes here. So like, if you really need someone to grieve with, either put it on my calendar for 6 hours, or like, we can't do that though.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how it gets like kind of sadistic being a super connector, because you end up with such intensely shallow, or like you have the capacity for the depth, but you can willingly choose when and how to give it. And that makes you be very judicious about when, and it makes you intentionally create relationship contracts where people can't ask for it.
When you say you,
me,
I.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and you disagreed with him on something. You said
I said it's not robotic because it's deeply human.
That's when you disagreed with me. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
No, please. I want you to.
Oh no, disagreeing with him was he told a story earlier about making himself available at kind of a strange time. That's when he needed it. And
he purported that it was for the interesting story.
It's for the interesting story. And for that person, that's not what it was. And look, our emotions run the show, whether we want them to or not. And we tell stories to ourselves about what we're doing to make it make sense to us. But like, we have sex because that's how the human race got here. And that has been running the show for thousands of years. And then we have to tell these really complicated stories about how I could have possibly cheated on you. Oh my God, it was such a crazy... No, it's what people do. They tell stories later about, to explain their actions. And it may be that, you know, it's the interesting story is the palatable story you tell yourself. But you may have been concerned for the other person who didn't want them to feel lonely. But admitting it. It was like the intolerability of their yawning, gaping hole of sadness that you just couldn't leave untended.
As I said before, I can keep both of those realities in mind at the exact same time. And for me, they were both there.
Yeah.
Because I knew that in the case of that story, someone calls you who you've never met asking for some very deep and onerous form of personal care.
Mm-hmm.
The question becomes, if you are in fact the only person who can help them right now, realistically, 2 in the morning.
Yeah, you're up.
And you're someone they've never met, so the fact that they're calling you means they literally couldn't have called someone else. What's the call? I think I kind of needed both of those realities in order to make that call.
Yeah.
What is the name for the intelligence required to hold a paradox?
Marsh Linehan would call it dialectical thinking. Improv comedy would call it yes and.
There's a word.
Yeah.
Owen, perhaps you could help me fill in the definition being the ability for the mind to readily admit facts and information that are troubling or contradictory to current stories.
Candor.
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 Candor is the word.
Candor.
The ability for the mind to readily admit facts and figures that are contradictory or troubling to presently held beliefs and stories.
I've always defined candor as forthright honesty.
For forthright honesty to be meaningful, it has to be admitting something that's hard.
And I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure not just for myself. For me to be honest with someone I love or care about is a recent skill, because my emotion of squeamishness, of fear of abandonment, because of my story, that is, if I say what is true, it may hurt the other person's feelings and render them less likely to love me. And thus, my emotions, as Owen said, are still running the show, whether I have admitted it or not.
Or they can create an entire system of filing, assigning, tagging, categorizing, stratifying, to allow you to be a superhuman for 6 minutes at a time.
For 6 minutes at a time?
Yeah.
He was just using the time frame that Steve brought up. Like, I can give you 6 minutes of empathy, just an arbitrary amount of time.
But if feelings weren't so powerful and possibly threatening, there'd be no impetus to build that system. You wouldn't need it.
Compartmentalization.
Are you secretly trying to tell me that I'm an F on the Myers-Briggs?
No.
That I'm a feeler, not a thinker?
No.
Because that would shatter my reality. You know the ENTP meme groups I'm part of?
Never.
No.
I think you're a wonder like the rest of us, who's created a way to get through the maelstrom of a day in a way that makes sense to you.
Tell that to my partners when they're crying in front of me, and I'm asking them which reality we should be living in right now.
I was going to ask if there was a time in which you found your system to harm you.
It doesn't harm, well, it harms me implicitly, but it more quickly will harm someone else who tries to assert their version of reality. Like, kind of the problem with, I guess, the way I approach life is that it almost necessitates a form of gaslighting, because it makes me always have so many realities at hand that I can play almost like a hand. It's of infinite size. And so if someone wants to say, like, that hurt me, I can say, like, okay, in this version of the reality you're positing, you are hurt. This does not necessarily need to be the form that all future realities take.
What if?
Shut the fuck up. I'm hurt. This is the fucking reality I'm choosing. And I'm like, I I hate giving other people power to choose the reality.
But what if that's their reality?
I know. It's hard to square those away.
Yes,
It makes me have to be obliged to other people's realities.
Lila, this episode would have gone really differently if that particular patron was here.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Who knows?
I would love to have addressed that with him, but
Yeah.
yeah, he is a patron.
Yeah.
And has remained so. You know, he was like, I will continue to support you. Gotta support what you love. Not me, the podcast.
Real talk.
Real talk.
But you also said no one has digested your podcast in the amount of time that he had.
Yeah.
I remember that being like a plus for him. It's a grandiose thing to say.
No. I said that because he reached out. What was it? Oh, he started following me on Facebook, and I looked at his profile. I was like, oh, he's cute. So then I sent him a friend request, and he sent me a message. And the message said, I've been listening. I just started listening to Horizontal, and I think it's incredible. I think what you're doing is amazing. And we started going back and forth. And in the week or so that it took from the time that we sent that first message, which was when I was at the tattoo parlor with your family, Kristi Ann.
I remember.
And
we have family
tattoo day in Jersey. And and the time that we went to that circling thing where Tiana also attended with me at the Chandelier, he had listened to every episode. He was up to date or something. So he had binged the series, and I knew it because he was sending me messages as he was listening. Oh my God, this is so powerful for me. Yeah, and that really did deeply impress me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And I realized, I need to, if I'm going to be with someone, I need them to get what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But really get it, not just be like, that's nice, babe. You know, I like that you've got something for yourself, or, good job, because I had people who were like that. They're like, how was rehearsal today? They didn't really care,
The struggle is it's actually normative to not really care.
To not care?
To not really care about, like, most people spend most of the time thinking about themselves. And having someone who's so arduously demonstrating that they care about you.
Yeah, it's like aggressive care.
Was it arduous? I didn't experience it that way.
You didn't, of course not.
I binge watch things all the time.
Sure. But he was binging you. Mm-hmm. Like, you binge watch Game of Thrones and D.B. Weiss and Benioff and whatever.
Excuse me, David Benioff is my future husband.
I know he is. That's why I said it. But he's not sitting there, like, jerking off thinking about how you specifically are watching the show and liking it or hating the ending or whatever. Whereas in this case, it's a direct connection between the creator of this unbelievably intimate thing and someone who's demonstrating repeatedly and dramatically that they understand how important that connection is to you, which is deeply appealing.
So you're telling me that should have been a red flag that I was being manipulated?
No. It should have been a red flag that he cared to show you that more than other people, which is a marker for other things.
Couldn't it just be a marker for liking me more than other people do?
Yes, but liking you more than is normative right away is not normative.
Does everything have to be normative to be okay?
No, but this didn't turn out to be. This didn't turn out to be, right?
Sure.
And it may have turned out fine, because that may have been indicative of other things. But when someone comes on really strong, it's probably not going to last.
Yeah.
Guilty. I've done that.
Uh-oh, I'm scared for us now, Patrick.
Not within the last year.
But there's a difference between someone coming on really fast and two people recognizing very quickly that there is a connection.
I thought I was recognizing a connection, as I'm sure Jillian did too.
Well, he did the same thing with my newsletter. was just like responding to everyone and like saying specifically why he likes it and like going really in depth about why he likes me as a creator. And this does not diminish either one of our badass creating abilities and how
Definitely not.
fucking amazing we are.
And I would posit he actually meant those things.
Totally. But it's like love. He's love bombing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Because
shit.
he can't do otherwise.
Mm. Yes.
And also
love bombing.
Try to hold on to the burning pan with your bare hands. You're gonna get fucking burned.
Is there such a thing as ethical narcissism? Where you know that you have a propensity for love bombing, so you instead choose to structure your relationships so that you can't do that?
Yeah.
Limiting your contact or something.
And insisting upon very strict boundaries over how you create opportunities for emotional escalation.
I think with all of it, it's a question of like, do you have the self-awareness to clue other people into what might be happening? And can you own the fact that those things might be possible and allow other minds to help yours throttle appropriately? When my partner fell in love with me, I was unwell. I had mania. And she immediately recognized it as something attractive and appealing to her. And, you know, it felt like meeting Kurt Cobain to her, who, by the way, I don't think had bipolar disorder. But I was pretty grandiose and pretty enthusiastic and all that stuff in a way that was state dependent. And on the other end was a decent person. But what she fell in love with was intensity. I happened to like her when that faded. But are you going to shit on that? Or are you going to be like, yep, that's how someone is? I think narcissism can be the same way. Like, if it wasn't for the grandiosity and belief that they could love you better than anybody else, that's the positive part. That's the healthy part where you can do those wonderful things. And I think the difficulties on the back end when you have to rectify that with the fact that your feelings might not always be the same and you can still care about somebody. But it doesn't have to be a ball of fire every time to be worth something.
Patrick, how do you think we've entered differently than you have in other relationships?
Within the first 30 to 40 minutes of our very first interaction, when at the party we met at.
Steve's party, the Love Immersive.
Yeah.
The immersive.
I felt particularly triggered by a situation that I was in, which was not inherently a triggering event from the outside. It just happened to push a few buttons of mine that I only realized later what they were. So it was really important information for me to glean. That being said, I was in state, and I needed to remove myself from the party. And on my way out, I wanted to say goodbye to you. And I remember you were holding down your closet, your intimate experience. And I said, you asked me, am I going to be okay getting home? And I said, part of me wants to say, yep. Another part of me wants to say, help. Help. I need help. And you held space for that for a moment. And then, with a stunning level of self-awareness, you looked at me dead in the eyes and said, without an ounce of judgment, I feel the impulse to take care of you right now. And that allowed my conscious mind to recognize what was going on in me and decide, okay, I don't want to be part of this dynamic again. I don't want this. Okay, I'm going home. I can figure this out. And so we went our separate ways, and it was the right move.
Immediately after those words, I said, and then I wondered, am I always going to be taking care of him?
But there's your answer, Lila. By the way, you asked how you can hold someone else's mind together. And you did it by making your internal world explicit and available to him. in a moment when he was unsure of what it might be. That's how it works.
When he was unsure of what might be.
So he was in a moment of doubt and fear and didn't know if he could go home alone safely.
Mm.
And you took what was inside your mind and you made it accessible to him. So he no longer had to wonder if that was what your answer might be or how you might think about it. And that helped him hold on and reconstitute. It's probably so surprising to hear the honest thing you actually thought, that it helped kind of jog him back to the rather, robust abilities he has to take care of himself.
It was delicious.
I don't remember you saying the part of you that wanted to say help. Did you actually say that?
Yeah.
You're sure you said that?
Yes. Wow. I may have dramatized it slightly in this moment, but I do remember saying, part of me says, okay, I got this, or something to that effect. Another part of me wants to ask for help, or something, again, to that effect. And then something else that you said in that moment was, you acknowledged, I felt really seen, because I heard you acknowledge, wow, it sounds like this is, and again, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words, but it sounds like this is a very intense experience right now, and yes, this is an intense party. I wish there were more places that people could go when they're feeling like this. And I think I remember you offering for me to go into the closet after the guest in there was through. And I decided, no. I didn't want to start playing this game, not with you. And that, I think, to the effect of what I'm hearing Owen describe, that you made it accessible to me. And since we've been relating, we've had this metaphor of like me. I've built this metaphor into my life of like me casting my fishing rod into my own head and plucking out the thoughts that are swimming around for my own benefit as well as for the benefit of others. Has been a tremendously valuable practice. I've been finding great value in that. So to your question of what sets this interaction, this relationship apart, that I don't have to guess, where I have previously with parents, friends, people whom I trusted. In those cases I did. And with you, I don't.
That's so fucking cool.
Well, that's like the one thing I love about Lila is that in her relationships, you don't have to guess. And there's so many people that hate that. There's so many people that love and thrive on that game. And that's like one of my favorite things about Lila is that they're just that you don't guess, you know exactly. Which I don't know Patrick very well, but it sounds like that is the most perfect personality for where he is in his life right now.
In the best possible way, it is a blowtorch for my bullshit.
Seriously.
Horizontal with Lila, a blowtorch for your bullshit.
A man, take my money.
We'd like to invite you to become a patron.
It's also the name of the workshop.
A blowtorch for your bullshit. Okay, thanks, friends. I was going to say good medicine. I'm glad I kept my mouth shut. Because that's way better.
Well, bullshit needs a blowtorch. Like, it doesn't need good medicine. It doesn't need fucking Coke syrup to help things go down smoother. It needs to be burned away like the dragons in your future husband's TV show.
This is also like, this ties in with a larger cultural trend around like ask culture versus tell culture. Where, does anyone have good insight into that divide? Where like there's a culture of, let's say you are coming to someone's town for the weekend and you would like a place to stay. Ask culture is defined by you just directly asking, hey, can I stay at your place? And that involves, a lot of risk because you might be making someone uncomfortable. And then you have
I'm coming to town.
Guest culture, I think, is another one where you almost would not even ask them because you're so nervous about making them uncomfortable that you might guess that they're free. Or
I have a question, Steve. I'm really curious to hear how this lands between ask culture and tell culture.
I think there are three ones that are posited. I think it's usually ask and tell are the two core ones that most people would agree are at odds with one another.
I wonder about something in the middle, and this is something I've picked up from you, Lila, since our time together, is approaching someone in a perspective host, as I feel the impulse to ask to stay at your place. However, I have the story that if I ask you, you may feel a sense of obligation. And I have the story that if it's not convenient or comfortable for you, you may not say so. So I want to counter that story in my head, even if it's not real, by letting you know that I have no expectations of you, and I would be grateful just to catch a coffee with you. And if you feel this is something you can give, I'd be grateful to receive. If not, I'm okay with that.
That's a much longer first line in your Tinder message. But I totally
thought Owen
support
was going to
that.
say something about that's a lot of words, but
Well, it's a lot of words, but it's actually
they mean something.
They mean something,
So authentic.
and that's the middle path. Is instead of asking or telling, it's not assuming in advance the person it needs to be asked or told. They need the information about what's in your mind to be able to make a decision that's informed by what's in your mind. And that makes it less scary, because the reason it's scary to ask is you don't know what the person's going to say.
Yeah.
And the reason it's scary to tell is you don't know if you're going to offend somebody. And if the person lets you know what they're thinking in advance, you can decide whether to ask or tell dynamically based on what is actually going to be well received.
How does this play out in a bar? You walk up to someone that you're attracted to.
I do it all the time. It's the choice to not assume, like to not know what the other person, what's going on.
You're hot. Want to go home with me right now? That's tell culture, right?
Yeah, and
that's ask.
It's like look,
jeez.
Just to be totally transparent, you're really attractive, but that's like a thing you probably hear a lot as an attractive person. So I'm not really sure if this is like the best way to start this conversation, and I'd really probably like it to go well. I'm not sure if it's going to. So first off, is this too awkward? Okay, not great. On one hand, I'd really like to fuck you, and on the other hand,
which bar are you at?
This is at any bar you want to be at. You bring your authentic self to the bar, and the thing is, like, either the person's going to react well to this, and that's going to be a person you really want to fuck, or they're going to be like, ugh, thoughts and feelings, go away, and they have done you a great service.
It's a perfect litmus test. Saves everybody a whole heap of trouble and time.
I do not agree. I do not think we should be approaching everyone we're attracted to in the bar and instantly telling them that we want to fuck them. There's a thing called tact.
Or you just look at them in the eye for like a little bit too long and they figure it the fuck out, because we're machines built to do this.
Okay, so after they've eye fucked you across the bar for 15 minutes, then you can walk and be like, hey, I think I've noticed something. And just to confirm, yes, tonight, my place.
And there's a beautiful marriage of those things where you've had implicit communication through your eyeballs, and then you explicitly say what you might like or want, and nobody gets assaulted.
Implicit eyeball communication.
Dude, that's so important. I know so many people who don't make eye contact, and then they wonder why it's so uncomfortable asking people out. It's because, you have no data. You're going in blind. If you don't have
literally
direct confirmation from all of their micro expressions and their mirror neurons firing, like knowing that this person is reciprocating your eye contact, your facial gestures, your body language, that gives you so many signs. It's its own version of tell culture. It's like, look, I am fucking the shit out of you right now. I am smiling at you. I am beckoning you over here. Like there's so much beauty to how people can communicate non-verbally.
But think about how much more disarming it is to eye fuck someone and then have that narration, so they don't have to wonder.
I'm reminded of something that I teach with Morel every time we do a play party orientation together. And usually at these play party orientations, we say, ask before every act, may I kiss you? Ask before every escalation. I find that quite tedious, and it's not my favorite way to interact. I still think it's important to teach it because so many people don't know how to do it. And I think you should know how to do it, and you should be able to master that. And also, I advise people to try and create opt-ins rather than opt-outs. And ask, you have to opt out of explicitly. May I kiss you? If the answer is anything but yes, then they forced you to opt out. It's just like if somebody wants to ask you to dance Argentine tango, and instead of doing the cabeceo, which is an eye fucking situation and a face-saving device, they actually get up, walk across the room, stand in front of you, and ask you to dance. And then if you want to refuse them, then they have to walk back across the room by themselves. And, right? So if you can create more opt-ins, as in, you look like you're really skillful with a crop. And I'd love to experience that on my skin tonight. And if you're interested in that, come find me later. I'll be by the bar or whatever.
I just did that like 3 days ago. That exact kind of a thing. It was beautiful. I was in the middle of a sex party and I directly said to the group, I'd like to turn the bedroom on the far side of the house into a sensual touch space with no penetration. And immediately, the people who were a fuck yes to that were like, wow, you spoke my language. Let's go do that.
I'm now going to make my internal world clear. I have to go to bed.
Okay, how about this? I would love to conclude with a round of what Patrick started with when we asked him to brag, gratitudes. I am so unbelievably grateful for the web of humans that are currently making up the fabric of my life. And all of you are a part of that. And the way in which we are force multipliers for each other. I am deeply grateful. Thank you.
I am deeply grateful for the people that have been in my life and have remained in my life so that I could keep my mind and not go crazy, and who have been super supportive even though they don't understand what the fuck is going on. It's been really lovely to have people that go, I trust you. And that's all the support I needed.
I'm grateful for the tremendous amount of loss that has taught me a really important lesson that has allowed me to kind of get through the world with less agony. Which is that, like, if no one's dying, it's not that big a deal. It's just not. I'm not going to spend my time feeling awful about things that aren't a big deal. And, like, there's enough life and death in the world that everything else can, it's just going to be fine. So thanks, everybody who was in my life and left me with that gift. Thanks, Dad.
Jillian and I have a friend called Matt the Infinite, and Matt says that he learned to ask himself, is it really that deep?
Yeah.
And I do that now when I'm getting all, fussed on the subway or something. I'm like, is it really that deep, Lila? And the answer has thus far always been, no, it's not really that deep.
Yeah, this is Jillian. I'm going to hop onto the just people gratitude train of just, I feel so grateful that I have people in my life who make it seem so obvious that I have the power to make the world a better place, because everyone in my life is doing that and they're speaking their truth and they believe that their voice matters. And 2 years ago, I didn't have that. And now I'm like, well, everyone in my life is an incredible person. Like, I'm keeping up with all these amazing, beautiful people. And so just to have them and be inspired by them and be supported by them every day is such a gift.
I think I'm grateful for being surrounded by people like you, Jillian. Like, it's so fun to see how you're translating so many different people's struggles into meaningful work. And even like the gratitudes that you share every week are so inspiring to witness, because but for that little blip on my news feed each week, I don't necessarily come into contact with anyone else who's actively trying to showcase gratitude and bringing that level of warmth and convivial energy and respect for other people's hard work into their day-to-day. It's so nice to, like, you make it easy to champion you, because I'm like, holy shit, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm doing it in your direction, it just feels like it's being used so well. So
Oh my God, my heart.
Sending people to the joy list, I'm like, it makes your life better. Like, making Jillian, like, propping you up to do this because you've stumbled upon something that's so powerful. The more support we give you, it's like, how do we make it so we can have force multipliers?
Yeah.
Just like Lila said, and I think you've become that for so many people.
Thank you.
And Lila, you too. Look at what you're doing here. You're creating a force multiplier for intimacy. You've literally multiplied the intimacy of this room by so much. But I feel like even though we're separated by little mattress islands, it feels like we're all very close here.
I am grateful for every opportunity to love deeper and be less focused on my ego. In that, I'm grateful to be surrounded by people that believe in me and are able to do that and model that for me as well.
I'm Tiana, and I'm grateful for all the strong connections I have in my life. I've made stronger bonds with my parents and certain family members, and definitely friendships and loverships and partnerships. And I'm grateful for learning communication tools that helps me be self-expressed to be able to strengthen those bonds on a regular basis.
So much to be grateful for. I'm grateful to be able to experience this, to experience being a human who is alive, who has a brain that works, a nervous system that works, a body that works. I can count to 10 on my hands and my toes. It's such a gift. Didn't always used to see it this way, but man, life is pretty great. And I get to share this with such lovely people. Count my blessings every day I wake up. It's a good day.
My friend Matthew Stillman took me to a weekend with the spiritual teacher Stephen Jenkinson, who runs the Orphan Wisdom School. And when I was there at Rowe Center, the thing that stuck out to me the most, there were two things. One was this sentence: how can we carry what knowing we're going to die does to us every day? How can we carry what knowing we're going to die does to us every day? And the other was, people wake up like, fuck, cursing the day. And I was like, oh my God, I do that. I hate waking up with an alarm and then I get all grumpy and I just wake up and I'm like, oh, is that what I want to do with each precious day that I have? And I decided that was not what I wanted to do. And now every day that I remember to do so, which is most of the time, when I open my eyes, instead of going, oh, fuck, I'm awake, I go, alive. And I pump my fists up into the air. And then I go, thank you, thank you, thank you.
From the bed, turn a spark to a fire. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila.
Love in its rawest and intimate expression. No matter how received, you still can't change the message. A length without measure, a priceless affection. The timeless connection of electric. The feeling that we define as a pleasure between you and I. A friendship's warm embrace like a fire. The cherished moments shared like stars in the sky. As the sun sets horizontal with Lila.
From the bed, turn a spark to a fire. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila.
From Hacienda Studio to everyone's ears,
that's what's horizontal.
This episode was recorded by Owen Muir, with mixing and mastering by Irving Gadori. Find Irving at igrecording.com on the interwebs to hire him for your tri-state area-based audio needs. My cover art was created by Shauna Shea, whom you can find on 99 Designs. And this episode features a remix of my original intro music by Kid Mental, an a cappella beatbox musician. I first heard Kid's work on my favorite podcast, Ear Hustle, when he remixed their theme song. He creates theme songs for everyone, podcast or no, and you can snag one by becoming his patron on patreon.com/kidmental. Next week, we'll pick back up with Jillian and Dennis in episode 101, part 3 of our conversation, to gain access to part 3, in which we delve into Jillian's household growing up, that incident with the vibrator, Dennis's high school work as a peer-to-peer sex educator, his biological brothers, the topography of our friendship lives, and how Dennis used to rely entirely on his long-term relationship to get his intimacy needs met. Become a patron of the Horizontal Arts by typing patreon.com/horizontal with Lila into your web browser. You have to type it in exactly or click a link for it because I'm marked as an adult creator on Patreon and thus my profile is unsearchable. Until next time, dear ones, may you have someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to attending Samia's anti-wedding today, November 19th. Samia of episodes 59, I'm gonna fuck him forever, and 60, Consexual Experiences, is getting married while wearing a skeleton catsuit. I'm gonna be their social media maven, so you better believe there's gonna be loads of videos. Check my Instagram if you want to see them. If you haven't yet, do me the honor of clicking the subscribe button in your podcast player of choice. It makes a difference in my world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for inspiring me to make 100 episodes and beyond. Thank you for getting horizontal.
Sneaky Narcissist is the title of this episode. Yeah.
Sneaky Narcissist? Oh, that's really good. Sneaky Narcissist.
I like that.
That's a fucking great title. Well done. Well done, team.